So I responded and then I ended the video because I had a 10-minute timer. I'm going to set another one. Okay, test. Need Otter to wake up. Test. Gonna write a 10 minutes here for reviewing this, finishing up, and then I got a meeting, and then I'm gonna hopefully get to implementing it. Your approach to refining the state machine for JWT and refresh token handling, especially considering the context, sounds thorough and well considered. I think let's break down the context and any additional considerations before moving to the implementation. Context: retry counts, max retry, network status, original request parameters. Network monitor, child volume, child machine. Implementing child state machine in a service that monitors network connectivity can enhance the robustness of your application. This can prematurely switch to an appropriate state when the network is down. Security: be vigilant about where and how you store the tokens and sensitive information within the context. State transitions based on network status. Your state machine could have transitions based on network status changes, adding more dynamism to the handling of requests and token refreshes. Graceful degradation: consider states or actions that provide a graceful degradation of service if network issues persist or token refresh fails continuously. Logging and monitoring: implementing thorough logging for state transitions and context changes can be invaluable. Once you have a clear idea of what your context should contain and the additional considerations, you can start building the state machine. Great, okay. So now what I'd like you to do, I just reread your message so you can ignore that or just kind of tuck it away for your memory. Now what I would like you to do is, given the updated context, let's please given the updated context, let's please update the different states and actions. Then after we do that, I want you to let me know that you're done. We'll confirm. And then after that, the next step will be to write out the states, all of the actions from within each of those states, context that those states will mutate, actions, guards, services, machines, things like that. We'll talk about all the different steps, and then we'll finally write the TypeScript to implement the X state machine. Great, let's update the states. Let's see, it's still going. Great, let's update the states and events of the state machine considering the additional context. And considerations we discussed. After this, we'll confirm and then proceed to detail out the states, actions, context, mutations, guards, services, and other elements before writing the TypeScript code. Updated states: idle, requesting, awaiting refresh, awaiting token, success, failure, network unavailable. This is new. State for handling situations when network is down. Timed out, new. State for handling timeout scenarios. Updated events: make request, request success, request failed, token refreshed, token refresh failed, retry request, network status changed, triggered when there is a change in network connectivity, timeout occurred, new, triggered when a timeout occurs in any of the states, updated transition idle to requesting, triggered by make request, requesting success, triggered by request success, requesting awaiting refresh, triggered by request failed. I would maybe rename that state to refresh requested, refresh required perhaps. Requesting network unavailable, triggered by network status change if network is down. Requesting to timed out, triggered by timeout occurred. Awaiting refresh to refreshing token is automatic. Refreshing token to requesting, triggered by token refreshed. Refreshing token to failure, triggered by token refresh failed. Refreshing token network unavailable. Oh yeah, true. That's a good one. Network unavailable to requesting, triggered when the network is back. Timed out to requesting, triggered by retry, triggered to retry after a timeout. Any state to failure for unexpected things. Additional elements: context will include retry counts, max retry count, network status, original request parameters, and error details. Guards, conditions to check before transitions like max retry count, network availability, etc. Services, external services for making requests, refreshing tokens, and monitoring network status. Child machines, a potential child machine for network monitoring. Once the structure is finalized, we'll break down each state and event with the actions, context, mutations, guards, services that are associated with them. Let me know if this updated structure aligns with your vision. I think this looks good. I have 6 minutes before I have to go, 5 minutes about. And yeah, I think this looks good. So we'll go ahead and send our approval. So we're going to say approve. And then what we expect to happen next is that ChatGPT will output a full and completely working specification. Actually, before we output the specification, let's write unit tests. Let's write unit tests using Jest, and let's create a thorough test bed before we even create the machine. That way, we can then create the machine, set it to a particular configuration using mocked stuff, and by default, make sure that the functions that we don't expect to be called throw errors, unimplemented errors, and they'll just be objects, like a default typed object or something like that. And that will be that machine's configuration, which will contain its actions, guards, all those different kinds of things. We want this to be very well organized. We're trying to set a precedent for our team at our company to appreciate state machines for their ability to be completely testable, infinitely configurable with ease, and despite their slightly higher learning curve of grokking a problem, realize that if you do completely grok the problem and describe the problem preemptively, by taking approximately 30 minutes to an hour of your time, you'll save yourself more than 30 minutes to an hour of your time downstream, because you will indeed understand the domain and have modeled the domain in a way that's understandable by others, because the domain is modeled in a protocol rather than in a arbitrary set of code statements. Going to send this to ChatGPT now. Going to send this to charge up now. Going to send this to ChatGPT now. Approving the updated structure for the state machine and moving to create unit tests using Jest before implementing the machine is an excellent approach. This will ensure that the state machine behaves as expected under various conditions and scenarios. Here's a structured approach to creating these unit tests. Basic flow: test the transitions from idle to requesting to success or failure. Token refresh test: test the flow from requesting to awaiting refresh to refreshing token and then back to requesting or failure. Network tests: test transitions involving the network unavailable and timed out states. Error handling tests: verify the machine correctly handles unexpected errors. Context mutation tests: ensure that context is updated correctly in each transition. Guard tests: ensure that it tests the conditions that guards check before allowing transition. Service mocking: mock the service for network requests, refreshing tokens, and Implementing mocks, create mock functions for actions guards, ensure the unimplemented functions throw errors to catch unintended calls, write test cases, use Jest to write test cases for each scenario, test both happy paths and failure paths, include tests. Great. Set up. Here's my time. I'm going to set a timer for 2 more minutes. Probably 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes and keep recording for there. So I've got a 3-minute timer on my phone. For example, basic test, it should transition from idle to requesting on make request. The approach will create a thorough and robust testing environment for your state machine. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and write out a fairly comprehensive test suite. Start with the happy paths and the token refresh code in particular. This is excellent. Happy path, it should successfully make a request and receive, set up initial state as idle, mock actions for successful request, trigger make request, assert the transition to requesting state, simulate successful response. That was not the longer timer. Assert the transition to success state. Token refresh. Set up initial state as idle, mock action services for a failed request due to expired token, trigger make request event, assert transition to requesting and then awaiting refresh. If you failed request, mock action services for successful token refresh, simulate token refreshed event, assert the transition back to requesting, mock action services for a successful retried request, simulate request success event, a mock action for a successfully retried request. I don't think you simulate that. I think that's a mistake right there. I've got to go. But we'll come back to this. I'm going to pause the recording and then stop the video recording as well. So here we go. Pausing recording voice.